So now Sean is going to cross-examine the villain.
That's right.
Who is wearing a jacket that's 5 times big. He's got some glasses on, and he's speaking in a soft tone. His daughter was sick the night before.
That's right. That's right. And so up until this point in time...
Now, were you guys thinking how much money... Are you in this saying, all right, they're going to offer 10, 15... Like, what, you guys are like, you know that you won. Like, you won the championship. This,
so we
this
did
last
it.
thing...
So
No, but
we
in your
did not.
minds, though. Like,
No.
So you thought the fix could have been in then?
Well, I didn't think the fix would be in, but remember, you're dealing with a jury,
Yep.
right? And at that point in time, you don't know how a jury can come out.
Okay, that's always, people always say that. That's a real thing.
You may get a sense for them. You may get a feel for them. We were involved in one case where an attorney ended up settling a case because he didn't like the way one of the jurors was looking at him.
Got it.
Right? So he settled the case out. He had come in feeling really strong, left the case, putting a lot of money on the table and saying, I don't like the way one of the jurors was looking at me. Now, after that case, we polled the jury and we asked about that. And he goes, I thought the other attorney was great, but I could barely see him because he was standing next to the window and the sun was coming in and was blinding me. And so this juror, I swear to God, this happened. The juror was squinting because he couldn't see the other attorney because the light was coming into him. But this attorney read it as, I don't like the way he was looking at me.
Wow.
Yep, that absolutely happened. So we had no idea what a jury was going to do. We had, at this point in time, done a number of mock juries. So we planned, we went through the process, we knew what pieces of information a jury most wanted to hear, but anything could have happened at this point in time. So the cross-examination, every piece of evidence, everything that we were doing at trial could make or break the case at that point in time. It was probably one of the most tense points in my life.
Got it. So everything was like on eggshells all the time.
That's right. And if something went wrong, like I remember one time something went wrong in the case, I walked out of there in tears.
Really?
Because it was 6 years of my life. It meant so much to me. It was like the championship, right? And like, let's say you fumbled the ball on the championship. Yeah. Like there were days where I was it was like all encompassing. I left one time in the courtroom in tears.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So we had no idea what was going to happen.
So Sean comes in.
Does his thing.
And is it like a 10-minute? Like how long do these things last?
This piece was probably a day and a half, 2 days.
That guy must have been under like a torturous.
Well, so this is a beautiful introduction to another portion of the formula because when something like this happens and a person is able to connect to their beautiful heart energy, and this person did not have beautiful heart energy, but attempted to do it, right? It is important that you show the jury what real heart and empathy look like. And so Sean is capable of throwing the most profound and electrifying lightning bolts you've ever seen. But here's a person who is trying to emulate a beautiful, heartfelt, or goddess energy.
He thought he could copy Sean?
He thought he could copy Sean.
He was that prideful, he thought he could copy Sean.
And so Sean came in with a beautiful match minus and then showed what real beautiful heart energy looked like and then destroyed him on the stand.
But for a day and a half, he had to just answer questions?
For a day and a half, he had to answer questions.
And they were all lightning bolts, I'm assuming?
Listen.
Once
we got past the guy's door. There were points in time where I would walk out of listen, when you're there's a portion of it that is theater, but then there's a portion of it where you are working. Like, I want to see what's happening, but there's a lot of stuff that's happening. We were on a clock, right? So every minute counted.
It was like object.
Every time there was an objection, it counted against your time. We had 28 hours or 27 hours, I forgot what it was, to deliver the case. So there was a timer. So every time you spent time doing something, you were whittling down on your time. Which
you were worried about early on because there was a lot of time use, right?
That's right.
That you didn't like. I remember you sharing that one time.
That's right.
Got it. I never knew there's a timetable on that.
Yeah. So not only do you have to deliver your case, you have to deliver it perfectly, but now there's a clock, right?
Ed, there's a clock on a litigation.
That's right.
I don't know if you knew that. I just learned that just now.
Tick, tock.
Wait till you watch my video. Go ahead.
That's right.
Yeah, no. You got to litigate with a clock.
And so
like a shot clock.
So there was one witness, which Sean said, you got 6 minutes with this witness. Like, we allocated time. At 6 minutes on the nose, Sean got up and he's like, you got to stop.
Okay.
And so I took it.
You didn't like the way that felt, though, that witness? That was not a good version of you? Was that one of those things that made you upset?
I needed a little bit more time.
Got it. Okay.
And he's like, you got to stop. I ended up taking an extra 2 minutes, but it had to eat into another witness. We had to allocate all the time. We had to know exactly what it was. It was its own challenge, right? Because you knew exactly. And I had one witness. I had 6 minutes to do it. I got 2/3 of where I wanted to be at 6 minutes. I wanted to get my third piece in. Sean's like, you got to stop. And I'm like, I'm going for it, right? It caused a little bit of friction inside the room, but it was well worth the time that we took. But yeah, that was a big challenge.
Did you and Sean argue in the room?
We didn't argue in the room,
At
but
the
there was an instance.
Was it like an elbow?
There was an instance where I got up and I said to Sean, I'm like, you gotta stop now. And he leans over to me and goes, sit down and don't get up again. That absolutely happened during the case. Now, behind closed doors, there were baseball bats and swinging at people's heads. There were potential OSHA violations. So there was a lot of fun, camaraderie, interesting moments in that trial. But at the end of the day, listen, the jury came back.
All right. Like, what's the last two questions?
So,
or do you look at the jury? Is you looking at the jury the whole time?
So the last thing that you do is what's referred to as a summation or closing argument.
Yeah.
And so Sean had the last word, and that is a dangerous place.
That's very dangerous.
That is a dangerous place to have.
I've seen a lot of people lose.
And he knew, and he structured it in such a way that he made sure that he would have the last word. So he had the last word with the jury. They disappeared for a day and a half.
Now, is that 10 minutes, 20, 30 minutes? Like, what is that last word timetable?
So is that
part of 28 hours? Or?
Yeah. It all eats into the time.
Okay.
We had wanted about an hour and a half of time. We ended up with about an hour 10.
Got it.
So Sean took about 50 minutes on his closing. They did their thing, and then he had about 20 minutes on his final reply. And the judge was like, you're out of time. Right? Okay. There was no I'll let you go a little long. Like, you had to know your time, and the judge would cut you off. And he was an unbelievable, fantastic judge. If there was a way to make a copy of this judge, to duplicate him and put him in every courtroom in America, I think our justice system would be completely different than it is today. No aspersions towards a lot of amazing, fantastic judges. My experience in 13 years.
It was about fairness.
This was a brilliant jurist,
Yeah.
integrity-filled, did not want emotion inside of his courtroom, knew the rules cold, called everything straight, may have turned things a couple in their favor when he saw that we were winning a couple to seal the deal and make sure that there was no appealable issues. Where it was like a coin toss, and he gave it to them.
Understand, but that's okay. I don't want to get because we could go.
Called it as straight as you possibly could. Just an amazing judge. But Sean delivered his reply, and the jury, they don't say a word.
You guys have talked about a story about a judge loving Sean. Was this the judge that loved? I need to talk to Mr. Callagy. Who was?
So he didn't love.
Was that the same guy?
This is the judge. This is the judge. He didn't love Sean. I don't think he. I definitely don't think he didn't.
Maybe
like
love is
Sean.
not the right word, but there was some kind of honoring who he was with something he said.
I think speaks as much about Sean's integrity as it does the judge.
Okay.
Because there was an argument that was brand new in the United States, did not exist. And to this day, it's now quoted in various cases. We were making new law on a particular issue.
Wow.
And the judge did not, at first he didn't understand it and wanted to rule against us. And we implored him to carefully consider what we were saying. And the judge had 5 arguments on the same issue. And had said openly, which judges don't do, right? There's a lot of pride inside the profession and things of that nature. He goes, I don't fully understand. I think I'm getting it, but I don't fully understand what it is that you're saying. And the 4th time we argued it, he then signed an order that says, I need Mr. Callagy on the line because I need him to explain this to me to make sure that I understand it. That I have never heard of before. I've never heard of a judge asking for 4 previous arguments. I've never heard him ask for a particular attorney to get on and explain something to him.
And when Sean explained it, was it in simple, bite-size?
Sean,
like the way.
That's exactly right.
Got it.
And so the judge goes, I got it. I agree. The judge says, I got it.
Was or no?
It was of course, it was an issue of damages.
Yeah.
On one calculation of damage, the case would have been worth about $1 million or $2 million. On the other calculation of damage, it was potentially unlimited.
Really?
And so the argument that they were advancing was essentially what the state of the law was at the time, but the state of the law was wrong. And so we were able to piece together an alternative economic damage calculation.
Meaning how much money this guy would have lost because of what's going on.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And so the judge goes, this is now the 5th time.
Was that the guy in Jersey that was part of that calculation?
So I could talk about him. Yeah. So we hired a doctor of economics. His name is Dr. Christopher Young.
Yeah.
And Dr. Young, we brought him in, and Dr. Young, we had asked him questions about how to put this economic damage theory together, and he goes, what you guys are asking for doesn't exist. And together, we co-created this new economic damage calculation, which to this day is being cited in other cases as how you calculate the damage for this type of issue. So the judge goes through 5 arguments. He goes, I understand what Mr. Young is saying. I understand what you're arguing. I want to make sure that I understand. He goes through 5 iterations and finally goes, are you saying this? Sean goes, yep. And the judge goes, I agree.
What was like no technical, because I'm going to keep it simple. But
Yeah.
what was the equate, like what was the thing that no one was considering that you got to consider this?
So in 2011, there was a valuation that was done on the company that our client was kicked out of.
And by the way, this is now 2016, so it's 5 years later. So that valuation doesn't even exist.
So, but there was a valuation, and the judge goes,
it's a baseline.
That's right. And the judge goes, here's the value of this company today.
Got it.
Right? That was in 2011.
Got it.
In 2016, we're now on trial saying there's lost profits.
And he hasn't been there for 5 years.
That's right. There's lost salary. There's lost all of these things. There's all of these damage that have occurred.
Got it.
And they say, not so fast. You're not entitled to lost profits.
He left.
Because in 2011, when you were forced out, the judge valued your interest, which when you do evaluation, it's the present value of all future profits that you would generate.
And that was the rule at the time of the law.
Correct.
That people lived on.
Correct.
Got it.
And so you're not entitled to all of the lost profits that you would have generated.
When this felt, oh my God.
Bananas.
Yeah.
Because they go, this is the law of the land.
Yeah,
like
they thought
you
they had it.
You got your interest.
Yeah.
You got the present value of all future interest. What we then argue was, but for their conduct, he never would have been forced out of the company.
Yes.
And so he would have got the profit from that period in time plus through the date of trial.
And you guys created this law?
It did not exist.
Got it.
Because once you had a valuation, that's your present value of all future interest. And we said, no. If you were the cause of forcing us out of the company, we get everything.
But who decided that first argument? Like, did Sean you, or was it Sean? Like, I'm serious. Like, give me the day it was born.
So the day that it was born was when me and Chris Young co-created this.
Got it. Okay.
And I pieced together the case law. He pieced together the economic damage theory.
Loved it?
No, he did not.
No, he didn't.
Sean didn't understand it at first.
So it was complicated because it wasn't part of the norm at that point. No one heard of it.
So ready for this? I was going to argue.
This is like some insurance shit right here.
So they were going to try to kick the damage theory out of the case early on in the case.
Like 2011?
In 2015.
Okay, got it.
In November of 2015. I know the exact time frame because Sean was going to argue a motion for summary judgment because I couldn't go. My grandmother had just passed away. Yeah. Right? And in the Jewish custom, you bury and you sit Shiva. Yeah. Right? And so we were burying her on the day that we had to argue the motion for summary judgment. So Sean had to argue the motion. At this point in time, this is how great his duplication. He was going through his stuff, and this is how great the duplication process is. He had not stepped foot inside of the courtroom until that day.
But knew everything because of how he trained you and he wouldn't skip it. That's important, guys. Listen, you said, I'm going to talk. He said the power of duplication, right? Replacing ourselves.
That's right.
And Danny and Parker, please listen. Eddie, the power of duplication means when you have systems in place and you're training people in that system, and all of a sudden, if Eddie, you're training Chris, and he's on call 4 on a premium finance that's taken 9 months, you had nothing to do with it, but he's trained in the way you know how to do it, you could jump on that call and not skip a beat, right? If you're training editors or other photographers or videographers in the stylistic approach, like, hey, Rob may do a podcast today. They're normally 20 minutes, but this is going to be 2 hours. The reason why it's going to be 2 hours is because there's such a powerful connection, and they want to create a front together so they can help serve people. And not only coaching, but also like in entrepreneurship and how to look at their business and protect them from money and law. Like, that's how you replace yourself, Parker. Hey, here's my 5 social media guys. They need to go check out these SEOs, look at titles, and in the moments when like they don't want to do nothing, come up with 5 titles and see if it fits the algorithm. I get it.
Yeah, and even more than that.
Thank you. Replace yourself.
It's also love.
Yes.
Right? Because if you love a person enough with boundaries,
yes,
then you hold them to their highest standard.
Yes.
And when you hold them to their highest standard, then you know what quality you're going to get from them. Right?
You know who's winning in today's conversation? Me.
But I'm
winning so much right now. It's not even funny. Like, I mean that. Like, I needed this, like rehab. This is like I went to like a 1-day rehab.
This is an immersion. This is an immersion.
The formula. So, wow.
But yeah,
all right. So now you got to argue with Sean. He's not feeling it for whatever reason.
Oh, it goes well.
And is it like one of those things? Because we know how Sean, like, is he like, no. Like, is he just blowing it up before you can even explain it? So eventually where he started listening kind of thing?
Well, let's go slow. So 2009, in August 2009 is when I started with the law firm. This argument is either in end of November or beginning December
15.
of 2015. So I'm with the firm for 6 years.
Yes.
So me and Sean are close. This is about the length of time that you've known him.
Yes.
It is the first time that he and I almost get into a fist fight.
Got it.
Like not like I'm going to punch him and he's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's he's upset and I'm upset.
Yeah.
Right? Because both of us believe in this.
Because you're standing on a place where in the past he was able to say, you know what, Michael, in the past he may have brought you to a place to see his side.
That's right.
And you just were not budging.
Because you
knew.
Because what did I have? I had purpose. I knew that he didn't fully understand it. And if he walked in there and wasn't able to feel it in his bones like I felt it,
when he does.
of course,
yeah,
that he wasn't going to be able to convince the judge because this was going to be a complicated piece of influence.
Got it.
Right? So he wasn't getting it. And then he was like trying to like say that he got it, and then he didn't, and then he was getting frustrated. I was getting frustrated, and I'm emotional because my grandmother passed away. My dad died earlier in the year, and I'm like, this is my life too, MFer, right?
Yeah,
and
I get it.
And I need him to understand it. He walks out of the room. I walk out of the room. We're like slamming things, and then finally he comes back and he's able to repeat it to me in a way.
What happened though?
I'll tell you exactly what happened.
Yeah.
I remember he came up with an analogy that I knew he got it. I knew he got it. And what he basically said was, I got it. It's a pizzeria. And I go, you're not getting it. And he goes, bear with me. It's a pizzeria. I own a pizzeria.
Yes.
And I pay myself a salary.
Yes.
And I pay myself at the end of the year from the profits. I also have my ownership interest inside of the pizzeria in my back pocket.
Yep.
So not only do I get my salary, but I also get the profits at the end of the year.
Plus the building at the pizzeria, I might even own that.
Right, but I still have my ownership in my back pocket.
Yep.
And I go, if they hadn't forced him out of the company, these things he would have received, but he also has his ownership in his back pocket.
Yes.
And so the valuation that was done in 2011 is irrelevant.
Yes.
Because it's not what the value of this was here, it's what it is here in his back pocket. Done. He got it.
And were you convinced that he would be able to have the judge say it?
Absolutely, because he had convinced me that he got it, right? And
no, but that it was a real, like, in your mind, did you think this was going to become a law? Or was it like you taking a shot?
You're asking like, now you're going like super invasive. Once Sean knows in his heart and with absolute certainty that a result is going to happen, that result is going to happen.
I agree.
I now believe that.
Yeah.
In 2015,
Yeah.
I didn't have that level of certainty.
Yeah.
And it was almost like a level of frustration for him because he's like, of all the magic, of all the things that you've seen, of all the things that we've done together, do I really have to explain? Do I still have to make you believe?
Yeah.
Right? Which, by the way, is a major frustration now for me with my team.
Yeah.
Because, like,
Now
of
you
all
know.
the things that you've seen,
Now
I
you
got to
know.
make you believe this.
Yeah.
But the reality was, he made me believe. I didn't believe at the level that he believed in it. And so I wasn't certain what the result was going to be. He was certain.
Yeah.
And that's why he didn't quit. That's why he didn't stop. And that's why, notwithstanding the 5 decisions of the judge, he was going to get the judge to understand this. Yeah.
And he did.
And he did.
So he does a hour and 10 minutes, close the with the jury. Right?
That's right.
They're out a day and a half.
After about, I think it's the trial, the pre-trial began on like March 18th or something, and the trial began like April 1st, and we ended like on April 23rd. So it was like 45 days that we were in Arizona.
Straight.
No
go. Yeah. So now there's a day and a half of what? What's that like?
So
for like you're waiting.
Yeah. So we rest, they rest.
Yeah.
Case is over.
Yeah.
Trial is then submitted to the jury.
Do like people see each other in the parking lot and talk shit with each other?
No. So they go in the back room. They go in the back room, and they begin to talk. And we have seen this process time and time again because the way we prepare for our trials is we have a process of getting a mock jury.
Yeah.
And we test them and we watch behind one-way mirrors. So we see how they formulate their decisions, how they talk through these issues. We see the strength of character in certain people, how they lead, how they follow. There's participants, non-participants. There's like this whole science to influence in a group dynamic.
Yeah.
Individually, human beings, like they're hit or miss about whether they get the right result. But our process of having a jury, as a group, they usually arrive at the right result. Now, they may get there through ways that you couldn't possibly have imagined. But as a group, a jury usually gets there, which is why we have a lot of faith in our jury system. Yeah. We try to avoid bench trials as much as humanly possible because you're essentially hit or miss. It's one person, it's a judge, and who knows what the result is going to be at the end of the day. But once we put it in the hands of a jury, they usually arrive at the right result. Crazy things can happen. Yep. But so they disappear for a day and a half. You don't know what they're doing, what they're saying, how they're going to arrive at the result, what they're thinking, the whole 9 yards.
Can you eat? like what's going on? Like what's going on?
I had definitely lost about like 18 pounds at this point, from like the beginning of trial to like the end of trial, or from the 45 days to like I went from like 220 to like 198. Like I had dropped weight because I wasn't eating very well. You know, Sean had brought us like Ruby Tuesdays every single day. Yeah. He was like obsessed with the most garbagey food ever. As holistic as he is as a human being, his belief in spirituality is unchallenged. His vision is unbelievably incredible, even though he's blind. The man only eats junk food. It's incredible. I don't know how his system continues to operate with the amount of like cheese whiz nonsense he puts into it.
Amazing. Yep. So, jury comes back, and how many different, like when I say on this count, and this count, and this count?
So that's not what happened.
Okay.
So the jury gets up, the judge goes, Madam
Juror.
It was a man. He goes, Mr. Four-person, four-man.
I watch Law and Order.
That's right. He goes, Mr. Four-person, has the jury reached a verdict? And they said, we have. I, at this point, can't breathe. Like, I'm not breathing. This is 6 years of my life, right? Sean is head down. He's not breathing.
Like, he's like this? Like, literally?
Just
like this at the table?
In a form of, like, prayer, right? Okay, it's not like
what about what about your client? Is he emotionally?
I don't even remember. The mechanism is clear. The only people inside the room at that point in time is Sean to my left, the jury, and the judge. You could tell me that like a person in a gorilla costume came like marching through the courtroom, like banging cymbals, and I would call you a liar because zero, nothing, right? Amazing. Zero. Wow. And so
incredible.
The judge, the jury four-person hands to the bailiff the verdict. The judge takes it. He reads it. The whole thing.
Is that like a 5-minute read? Is that like a 1-minute read? Is that like
it was like probably a 1.5 minute read. As he read through this whole thing, he flipped the pages, and this was very odd. The judge goes, "Yeah, I think I'll read this one."
Okay. Which
normally the jury reads it, like you said. You watch Law and Order.
Did you ever find out why? Or he bought into the bully, like he just wanted to make sure.
In all honesty, here's what I remember: him taking the page, flipping through it, looking at us, looking at the defense, flipping, closes it, looks at the defense, and he goes, "Yeah, I think I'll read this."
Is that theater, or was he like?
This is not a theatrical person. Okay. This is a person who had a court order. For those non-believers, I'll provide a copy of the court order that said you are not to appeal to emotion. You are not to become emotional inside the courtroom. For all intents and purposes, passion and emotion need to be out of the courtroom.
Yeah.
I've never seen an order like that from an individual judge ever before.
Okay.
So this was not a theatrical person. This was not an emotional person. But he said, he looked at the defense and he goes, "Yeah, I think I'll read this one." And he starts reading through it, and he goes, "On the count of breach of fiduciary duty, we, the jury, find the defendant liable."
So freeze. Does that, in your mind, did you win yet? Or was that like, all right, we just got a single?
So that means...
I just got a bunt.
So that means...
Or is that, bro, we just hit a home run and we're winning 1-0 right now.
So that means we won, but a win could be $1.
Got it.
Which is a loss.
So it doesn't matter yet.
Right?
It matters, but it doesn't matter yet.
Because
at this moment, I'm saying.
They paid millions of dollars to get there.
Got it.
The defense, we the jury, find the defense liable. So there's this immediate rush of like, holy S.
Yeah.
Holy S, they came out the right result.
Yeah.
And then he goes through each one of the defendants and he goes liable. And there was like one or two, I think, that he said not liable, but they were people that we wanted to let out of the case anyway. And the other side resisted because of the optics of it, right? Yep. They wanted us to make it look like we brought cases against people who were innocent people. And there were two people who were like super likable people and they had no business in that case. We try to let them out, but at that point in time, we can't. We don't have any control over it. And then they get to the number, and
I'm sitting here biting my nails. Listen to this.
they get to the number, and we had asked for $10.7 million in compensatory damages based on our calculation.
Got it.
And so they go, we, the jury, find the defendants liable and award damages in the amount of $11 million. So I don't even remember. I remember for the first time, like, I don't even remember how I reacted. I think I was finally able to, like, take an intake of breath.
Are you allowed to make a noise? Legally, I'm sorry. Like, are you allowed to say something or no?
In all honesty, I don't know at this point, but if I did, I wouldn't remember it. But what I do remember is to my left, I heard Sean sob.
He started crying.
And I heard just, and he just started crying. Because it wasn't about the money. It never was about the money. If it was about the money, he wouldn't have done what he did. It was that his entire belief structure was on trial. That there's right and wrong, that there's good and evil, that there's integrity and there's non-integrity. And he had told me before we went to trial, when I asked him what would be the right result, and he said, the right result is I can look at my children and say that this is the way the world works. That there is injustice in this world, but there are people that will make it just. But you have to fight like hell, and you have to make them believe and understand. And so they said $11 million. I hear the sob and the cry from Sean as tears rolls down his face. And they then say, the judge says, there's a question that says, does the jury find that the defendants acted maliciously and with evil intentions? And the judge read the page.
Is that a rare question like that?
Yes, that doesn't happen in cases. That's a rarity. And the jury said yes. So at this point,
you knew your calculation already.
Yeah, I'm like, so we knew $11 million.
Yeah. Plus what you thought was the compensatory, right?
That was it. The $11 million.
No, the other one. What's the other thing?
We asked for 10.7. They awarded 11.
Got it. Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So that's its own thing.
I'm tracking. Yep.
And then they go, did you find that the defendants acted with malice and evil intention? That's the word they use. Evil intention. And the jury said yes. And I went, at this point, I'm now processing, and I go, oh my God, they're going to find punitive damages. And so remember, my only experience was $24 million and $8 million of punitive, so about a third.
Yep.
And the jury awarded $16.5 million in punitive damages.
That was all right in that same sentence.
So so I'm like.
Now is Sean is he sobbing more? Is he like?
He went into a meditative state.
Got it.
And I think I won't speak for what he did.
Yep.
But I think that he made a lot of deals. Right, and he made a lot of promises
to God at that point,
and I think he was thanking God.
Thanking him, got it.
Yeah.
Wow, amazing.
And he's a very religious person, very devout in his beliefs, and I think he went into a meditative state, and I think he thanked God, for delivering on the deal. And I do know this for a fact, that one of the deals that he made, Sean is a big believer in Muhammad Ali, and Muhammad Ali didn't not talk smack and didn't not put bullies in their place after he beat the crap out of them.
Not.
One of the bets that he had made with God is that he would be humble about it.
Oh.
Is that he would be
brag?
And he never, ever, ever, ever bragged, because to this day,
I don't know that version. I know,
to this day, he is keeping. Now listen, he will talk to the world about what happened and what he delivered, but he has never said it to them.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He has never.
You don't want to give him that energy anyway, though. I don't. Who cares?
He never said. But I will tell you this: those same attorneys, the case went on and did other things.
So hold on though, Mike. This is great. So you guys just won. Is there a press conference afterwards?
No.
Is it like you just won a title and you get to talk to all the media and stuff like that? So
at this point, we now have judgment for $27.6 million. Right.
That's half the battle, right?
There's
still more to go.
That is. So Sean was done, because for him it wasn't about the money. It wasn't about the judgment.
Yeah.
Right. It was about the vindication of his belief structures.
Yeah.
So for all intents and purposes, the Crusades were over, the war was over, the battle was over.
His part.
So he never checked out, but validation had occurred.
Got it.
Right?
Got it.
So the money was just like, when you sue a person for damages, you collect money from them.
So you'll get the money though.
That's right.
Got it.
But now he was filled. His cup was filled.
Got it.
Right? Me, on the other hand, and I never got this payoff at trial. I was like, now we got to make him pay.
Yeah.
Right? And that was its own battle
Yeah.
that lasted for years. But
Wow.
when we walked out of the courtroom, I still don't even remember when I took my first breath.
Yeah.
Sean had his release, right? The team kept their mouth shut until they got into the elevator, and you could hear them in the elevator screaming because we had to take separate elevators down. But they're screaming, and you could hear them through the elevator shaft, right? And then I get on an elevator with I think it was Sean and the client, and we're like just hugging the whole 9 yards. We make it to the parking garage, and I still have this photograph. The other defendants all end up in a circle outside of the courtroom, like wondering what the hell just happened.
Wow.
And so I have the picture of all of them standing stunned. I still have the photograph in my phone. I just found it the other day looking for something. So it's just like,
Did they look over you?
They did not. It was a parking deck like 300 feet away. We're at the
it.
top level. I'm looking down on them. It's like 20 of them, and they're all like crowded around their central cult leader figure, and they're just like, to be a fly on the wall of that conversation. But
He had to rally the troops if he was a leader.
I got to be honest with you, because a couple of days later they filed something with the court where they go, we're perplexed by the result. We're confused how this could happen.
Is that normal that they would do that, or was it desperate?
I don't think it's normal that an attorney would say, I'm surprised by the result.
Okay.
That's a hell of a thing for an attorney to admit to a court. And the judge wrote a 30-page opinion that basically said, I don't know how you could be confused if you were in the same courtroom that we were in.
So he lit him up.
He lit them up in a way I've never seen a judge do before.
Yeah, because he questioned the judge.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So,
and the judge took his own notes, and he gave them the world according to the judge. He didn't take the jury's conclusions.
Yeah.
He goes, let me tell you what I saw, and then went 30 pages.
And it was real thorough.
Dude, there was depth to the analysis
Yeah.
that only the most seasoned the only person who's paying attention at the highest level would have picked up distinctions in the sum. It was to this day, I'm going to send you this
I would
thing.
love to see that.
This is the most thorough dismantling of another human being you've ever seen in your life.
I would love to see that.
And then he goes, and about evil intention, and he spent 15 pages on evil intention.
Amazing. So, in the world of lawyer laws, secret society, are you guys getting when right after this you get back to Jersey? Do people want to interview? Is there law journal What was all that? Was the hype behind you guys
there's law journals, there's articles, there's things, there's clients, there's all this stuff. But the reality is we never rest on that. Whatever we co-created there together, it's just the ability to create context and contrast between what exists and what can be produced.
Got it.
And what we get to lean back on is integrity-based human influence. We get to lean back on a proven formula and standard that allows us to duplicate and produce results. We can't guarantee a result, and we still lose cases, right? It happens, right? The evidence is the evidence at times. But, we just posted today on LinkedIn that we had a $14 million arbitration award that came through just recently. So.
Amazing.
That formula allows us to duplicate and hold our own teams to the highest standard, so we know what our attorneys are doing, right? What our associates and our partners are producing as well. Yeah. And without that formula, there's no guarantee of the quality of the work that's being produced.
Amazing. Well, listen, Mike, you have smashed the record. This is my longest interview ever.
Is that right?
Yes. Everyone can't even contain themselves at this point.
Is that right?
The movement that you could hear in the background is
I just hear lions. I hear lions pacing back and forth.
Yeah, the amount of content and video series and this is probably 5 podcasts, if not 6 in one. That makes Eddie very happy. The ability to really be able to have folks that listen. When you're on YouTube and it's meant for you to listen to things when you want to listen, I would recommend that you sit down on any of these different episodes that come out, take notes. What Michael has been part of, the journey, the success track, the what I like to call the predictable outcome from the formula with integrity. That same formula has taken Epic from 8 to really, truly 2,000 opportunities a month.
I mean, can we just
And it's
can we talk about
counting,
that?
It's getting more
those I have
not-
seen people so listen, I will call me the student of influence in application in the practice of law. I have never seen a student quite like you who has deployed the formula and produced the kind of results that you've produced. They're just magic.
Yeah, I think
Right?
that.
So you joke about yourself, but
Yeah,
I mean, listen.
I think that for me, I had the gift of desperation, God, when I met Sean. I wanted desperately to be a student again. When I had my first wave of success in a call center environment where we would, over the telephone, open up new accounts on individual stocks, and then the guys or the gals on the team we would do insurance. I love life insurance as the centerpiece of everything, but I wasn't growing the team. I kind of rested on what was happening, and ego, came into me, not surviving financial success, and by the time I met Sean, I had just read Tony Robbins' book, Money Masters of the Game. So I was always looking for ideas and strategies on how to create consistent lead flow. I really was. And when I met Sean, I was like, he's an attorney, but he's not, meaning he was talking coaching language, right? So I could never relate to an attorney before that. And
we're kind of hard to relate to. I'm just putting that out
there. Yeah. So I was just in awe, and I was like, hey man, you're Tony, and Epic could be creative planning, because I was kind of modeling that, except I knew that I had this insurance thing that the world needed to know about. You know what I mean? I knew that insurance agents knew the product inside and out, and their biggest problem, this is a conversation I had with David Harder, he did like a demonstration somewhere, and I was like, do you get to tell clients that, or just other agents? Because at this point, I met Sean, and at this point, we were doing practice mastery. So I was getting appointments, 8 to 30. That was the first run.
I remember.
And so David came on the scene with Eddie. Eddie was the one that pointed out to me the Chris Crone video when Sean did his 3-day immersion, and he was talking about ecosystem merger, and Chris was talking about life insurance, and it was like so random. It didn't make sense that this guy who's a real estate guy, peak performance, was talking about life insurance at all, like as a become your own bank concept. So I was already a year and a half in with Sean at that point, and
what do you mean by become your bank, by the way?
When we overfund the insurance policies,
that's right,
and people could leverage it to go buy other investment or other asset.
Which, by the way, I would
to get multiple use of each and every dollar.
Have the finance background, economist of mind.
They don't
I would
teach
never.
that in college.
They don't teach you that in college. I would never have put my money with anyone else. You manage my money, right? I have a life insurance policy with you.
Yes, you do.
Because as smart as I am, right? Whenever I would listen to people explain these products, I would immediately tune them out, close my listening, and be like, I don't like this. It feels uncomfortable.
Yes.
Rob was the first person to open me up to actually listen. And I think by the time he was done talking, explaining things in a very simple way, in a way that was manageable for me, where I understood it, I asked him a question. I go, so this is like kind of like the no-brainer of a century, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I'm glad you came there and I didn't have to tell you that. And I immediately put my money with Rob. And I never had a person manage my wealth before. I never had a person in any way instruct me on things, and never provided me guidance on insurance before Rob. That's it, period.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, brother. So Sean brought me Chris, and like I said, Eddie pointed the video out, and it's like a profound moment. It's so, you know how like storytelling exists? Like Mike Vesuvio the other night, MV, I'm on the phone, I'm in a meeting with him. He's like, yeah, didn't Eddie introduce you to Chris Crone? I'm like, no. Like, I don't even know where that came from. You know what I mean? Like,
that's when the tape began to run.
Yeah. So, at the end of the day, Eddie sees him on tape. I had Chris's phone number from the same weekend when we had my Carefront as Chris Crone YouTube, but I would never call him because Sean said, you can't, don't call him. So I wouldn't, I follow the rules or the strategies. And then I said, Sean, look what Eddie just showed me. And I showed him the video. And I said, can I call Chris? Because this is exactly what I do. You know what I mean? And boom, I called him. We're out in LA a week later. You were there.
Fair to say, because you wanted to respect.
At that dinner table, you were there.
I remember.
When I gave Chris a 4-minute presentation, and the deal was struck right then and there.
Yeah.
Right? You were right there. You saw the whole thing.
I remember the restaurant we were in.
It was, what's the name? The guy from the Platte.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I can't say his name. I forget his name. But it was in Beverly Hills.
That's right.
Yeah. So.
And it was not your food.
No. I just ate the white rice.
That's
and
right.
Survived.
That's right.
And then there was a Wendy's around the corner or something to catch up on. So I say that, and we have the presentation, and then Chris has the mechanism, right? To because now, ready, insurance agent, if you connect with someone that has access and a community that they love, that loves that person, you then can become a fulfillment piece on financial education, and that was the secret there. But the formula has been very instrumental in maintaining those two titans in a relationship, in a business that they're both on the outside. You know, like they have their own worlds. You know what I mean? So if not for the formula, you could get that relationship, but then you could also lose it real fast.
That's right. Life gets in the way
very quickly. And what happened with me was I was like, all right, listen, formula.
Like it's a person, Mr. Formula.
Mr. Formula. Let's start building our own stuff. Right? That's what all this is, right? And let's organically get our own opportunities. And that's been like the elevation. And then guy that I formed a partnership with, David Meltzer. And you and I had some connections with David and good conversations. And another example of the formula, David's David, and you're there, and all of a sudden, because of the loving people, right? Confront but with love. He was grateful, and things are just happening in such weird, cosmic, universal ways that I wish I could. I said this the other night when I was with Sean at the Molly Pitcher Inn. I said, listen, the gift that he gave me, I wish I could wrap it up right now and give it to each and every one of you folks out here, and your business grow like mine did. But it just doesn't work that way.
It actually does, right? I think the biggest challenge that we face, and as a leader manager, it's the one that I face the most, is sometimes the people closest to you that you love the most are the hardest to confront.
Yes.
Right? Because you love them so much that you don't want to hurt their feelings.
Yes.
So you don't tell them the truth.
Yes.
The whole truth.
And nothing but the truth. Yeah. Yeah.
And so if you love them enough with boundaries to be able to tell them the truth, to help them to unleash their best version of themselves and hold themselves to their highest standards, they're going to begin to duplicate you in what you've achieved so that they get what you have.
Love it. Yeah. Amazing. Well, listen, folks, I hope that for anyone, and if it's one person that could turn this interview into a $100 million company or a $100 million foundation or generational wealth, or just be nice every single day to every person you see because you want to play the game of, you have a good heart, you're playing the pay it forward game of karma, then we did our job today, no doubt about it. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, Mike, what is the best way that they can?
Yeah, I'll give you my cell phone number.
And this will also be in every single link that's in any single platform this goes out on.
Yeah, no, so it's fantastic. So the best way to contact me is my the first initial and my last name. So it's M Smikun, SMIKUN at CallagyLaw.com. And if anybody wants access to 30 days of this formula and this training, it'll be my gift to you. You email me, and I will give you access to a system that will give you this the introduction to these tools for 30 days.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
And you know what? Screw it. When I finish my book, you send me an email, I'll give everybody a free copy of the book as well.
Even better.
I'm feeling super generous
Even better.
today.
And Mike, just let's close on this, because I think there's business owners, and you have you and Fred have something, if you want to kind of share a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, so
that I think maybe somebody might have interest in this, which I think is an incredible thing.
And I will talk about my partnership with Sean Callagy, myself, and my partner Fred Pinto, which has turned into an amazing opportunity for business owners. So we have a very unique business called Fit to Exit. And what Fit to Exit is, it's a distillation of all of our combined knowledges together that will help entrepreneurs to ideate, design, and ultimately execute on their ideal exit. Most business owners will fight you tooth and nail when you talk about exit with them. Some love it. Some absolutely hate talking about it, and they tell you over their cold, dead hands. But what they don't talk about is every entrepreneur ultimately exits their business.
Yeah.
Sometimes they exit by a net payout with a third party buying them out. Sometimes it's an internal exit with a partner buying them out. Sometimes they go IPO. And sometimes, unfortunately, like my father did, is they pass away with their business in their hands. And without right succession planning, without exit strategies, without mapping your destiny, you're potentially leaving major opportunities on the table. And so we've distilled down all of our knowledge, put it into an online course for entrepreneurs to digest at their own pace to help them to, again, ideate, design, and ultimately execute their ideal exit.
So you're ideating that S.
That's right.
Yeah. So how do they see that website or be able to look at that course?
If you go to www.fit2exit, like how your shoes fit, fit2exit.com, you'll find our website that are talking about it. But again, I'd love to offer you guys an amazing opportunity to access some of the content for free. If you send me an email at msmikun@callagylaw.com, I will give you a free access to that as well.
And as far as Fit to Exit, is there different programs or is it just one program that's through the website?
So there's a couple of programs that are available, and they range from do it yourself to we'll help you to we'll do it all for you.
Okay.
And so depending
You'll be
on...
able to see that on there.
That's right.
You don't wanna, All right. So 3 different choices. I would highly recommend anyone that's really interested just to look at, check it out, check out the website. Obviously, the 30-day formula access for free is an incredible gift. Can't tell you what it's done for us. Our revenues have increased 250% year over year. And the path that we're on is something I didn't think was possible when I first met Sean, even though he told me it was going to happen. Just want to thank you, bro, for being who you are, coming in today.